Swaikap everybody, welcome back. And this video I want to just have a small discussion about the new release of the X-T200. Unfortunately, during this photo walk, the video from my action camera had very unusable video. So for now I would just result in having some slideshows. And with this X-T200 and topic that I want to have a discussion is mainly to do with the idea of different expectation depending on the cost of cameras and what is expected of. And I only focus on Fujifilm since I'm only shooting Fuji and haven't had the opportunity to try out other camera brands so far. With this 2020 waiting for all these brands coming up with their latest and greatest cameras, it's very exciting. But it also brings up a new topic about buying second-hand, whether I should, let's say, get a H1 instead or even X-T3 for a cheaper price. And I'll just get straight to the point that it's difficult to pick up either one of those cameras for whatever strengths they have, mainly because in my situation I'm expecting to use this camera for, let's say, 5 or more years, and so I have a certain desire to at least get the latest camera. And this might be one of those gear syndromes that makes people want to just have like the latest gears all the time. But though I don't think I'm 100% in that situation at the moment, only having an X-T1. So being like 4 generations behind seems reasonable to sort of finally upgrade the body, when most of the community and tips are all talking about upgrading your lenses. But back to the X-T200, I had full intentions of picking up that camera as the B camera, as to shoot like another perspective during interviews that I would like to do in the near future, that I've already done a little bit in the past, alongside being able to use it as a vlogging camera. And I do not expect IBIS. It seems pretty clear that it's not going to happen for a camera at this cost, at this level per se. But I did sort of expect a minimum of digital stabilization, which I'm quite happy Fujifilm is finally sort of taking a step into that direction. And to go straightforward once again is that, like with the X-T30 line, I don't think that should or will have IBIS either, but having digital stabilization is a very good compromise that I think most Fujifilm's non-IBIS cameras should have, which with the release of the X100V, a lot of people complaining that there's no optical stabilization in the lens, which again I think the X100V could do with some digital stabilization instead, since it's only software, it doesn't take any hardware space, which will then sacrifice the camera's compact size. But back to the X-T200, another thing that I think is a much more interesting discussion is how Fujifilm has taken away their film simulation. Now it's quite reasonable to just go straight and say, oh, they're just taking out the Eterna profiles simply because they want to protect their higher end lines, which is sort of fair enough. But then I just wonder how Fujifilm could differentiate itself from all the other camera brands. I can understand having lower tier models not having 4K 60 or not having long profiles, but I still somewhat believe that Fujifilm, being unique, should at least have all film simulations throughout their entire camera line. So if one person chooses to start off with a beginner camera, if not the X-T200, maybe even the XF10, which might not have any updates. We'll just have all of the film simulation. I only talk about film simulation because the X-T200 does not have the Eterna film profile, which I once again did not expect any log profile, so I was fully going to use the Eterna film simulation for videos, which again they don't have. Now, to sort of pause on this sort of complaint and rant, let's talk about solutions. It's a small deal that Eterna is available, but what are the other solutions if I were to still pick up the X-T200? Now, based on their graph of sort of totally hard or totally soft and saturation low and saturation high, the next film simulation closest to Eterna is actually Pro Negative Standard. That's what it's called. Just being slightly sharper and slightly more saturated than Eterna. After that, we have Pro Negative High, being a little bit more hard, and then more saturated. We have Astia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and so forth. So maybe this Pro Negative Standard with other adjustments such as lowering vibrance and lowering sharpness and lowering contrast in the hue menu system would give me enough legal wiggle room to do some video while not blowing out certain highlights or having too deep shadows, and some like wiggle room to edit the clips. Only issue is then whatever primary camera I'm going to get, let's say the X-T4, would need to have the same simulation once again, which is not a big deal to me, which will make editing process much easier in the long run for sort of simple interviews that most likely would not require log profiles. For the work that I'm going to do, log profile would be mainly used for running gun shooting with very high dynamic range, whether it's very bright sunlight outdoors or very dark in bars situations. But for interviews, usually the lighting would be quite even and so does not require the log profiles. And that's sort of the main takeaway that I'm thinking in my mind right now of there's always going to be downsides to cameras, whether they don't have IBIS or image stabilization, or they might not have a film simulation that you desire. There's always a workaround, alternative solution to do when it comes to these cameras. And of course, people like to compare other cameras that might have it, let's say IBIS. But sometimes we fail to recognize if those cameras' IBIS or image stabilization is even good in the first place, which sometimes with the smaller camera bodies, they don't. They just stick in an IBIS and for people to just read the spreadsheets that this camera has IBIS while the other one does not. When you actually test the camera, the IBIS is actually quite bad and you're better off turning it off altogether. The last thing I would like to ask is whether or not you guys like the old X-T100 screen and how they designed the flip screen aspect of it compared to the new X-T200 being fully articulating flip screen. I honestly thought that the X-T100 style, where it has two joints that rotate 180 degrees for you to see yourself, is quite enough. And if you were to be the camera person and don't need to flip the screen around, you can still have the screen within the camera form factor, flipping the screen for low angles or high angles. I thought that was a really great flip screen design. Quite sad that Fujifilm had decided to go for the traditional articulating screen. And maybe they would sort of hear out the community or try it again in the near future. It just seems to me that the X-T100 flip screen might be stronger because there's two hinges to rotate the screen, and it just seems more versatile that if you want to shoot high or low angle video or even photos, you don't actually have to flip the screen outwards in the first place. You can just tilt it up or down. Something that they could sort of try for their larger body cameras is the idea of mixing the X-T100 screen with the traditional X-T3 screen, where you not only have the ability to flip the screen 180 degrees to see yourself for vlogging, but also tilt the other way for taking portrait shots in low angles. Just a small tangent is just a personal complaint with reviewers at least a year ago, if not more, talking about how this screen articulating to the left cannot be used for vlogging. Well, obviously it's not supposed to use for vlogging, it's supposed to use for low angle portrait shots, but they never seem to indicate that and just mark down the camera for not doing something it's never designed to do in the first place, which is just really weird and makes me question their review capabilities for other cameras if they're not able to sort of recognize the design feature of this lens. It might be bad for vlogging for sure, but once again, it's not for vlogging. It's tilting to take portrait shots in low angles, which is very useful when you actually get a chance to try it out yourself. A friend of mine who saw it for the first time when he was taking low angle shots was quite surprised because it's actually a unique screen that no other camera manufacturer has done before. It's only Fuji that has that kind of screen. With that said, I will end the discussion here for now and try to prepare something more visually pleasing video wise for the next discussion that I would like to talk about. With that said, I hope to see you all next time. Bye for now.